Hello children, hope you all are doing very fine. Today I'd like to take up the poem Crossing the Bar with you. Crossing the Bar is written by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Alfred Lord Tennyson was a poet of the Victorian era. You have other poems also of the Victorian era to study, like you have Matthew Arnold's Dover Beach. Thomas Hardy also kind of little into the Victorian era and then onwards. So Thomas Hardy's poem Darkling Thrush also is there. Now, why am I talking about the Victorian age? This is during Queen Victoria's time, and during this age, the conflict between faith and doubt was very great. What is the conflict between faith and doubt? I want you to understand that by this time England had started making many scientific discoveries. It had progressed by leaps and bounds as far as science was concerned. One of the main things that happened during this time is basically Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin had brought in the theory of the origin of species, in which he clearly mentioned that human beings were not the first ones created by God, but human beings actually evolved from monkeys and apes, right? So this kind of discovery, revelation, a scientific revelation, went directly against the thoughts that were promoted by the church. So it basically was kind of going against Christianity. In the Bible, it's mentioned that God had created man first, and then you have Charles Darwin who said no, man was not first, but man came quite later on. In fact, he evolved from animals. Alright, so these kinds of things and various other scientific discoveries which had started happening from the 16th century onwards, building up little by little, coming to the 19th century. By this time, people really started doubting, and therefore there was this conflict whether to believe the religion that they have been following or whether to believe the scientific theories that have been put forward. Okay, so this kind of a conflict was there in the authors that were writing during this particular era. In Dover Beach, also this conflict between faith and doubt is quite prominent. In Darkling Thrush also there is a prominent conflict between faith and doubt. However, in Lord Tennyson's poem Crossing the Bar, this conflict is not there. That is not to say that Lord Tennyson did not feel this conflict. Earlier in his life, he also did feel the conflict, and many of his works dealt with that kind of a conflict. But by the time he is old, he is writing this poem when he wrote this poem when he was 81 years of age. And this was composed in 1889. That was just 3 years before his death. And he had suffered from a severe illness. He had recovered from that, but that led him to think about death and what will happen after death, which kind of reaffirmed his faith in religion. So this is a poem of faith and affirmation. Crossing the bar is basically crossing from life into death. Now, the bar over here is a sandbar. A sandbar, as is also mentioned in your book, is a ridge of sand that is formed near a shore because of currents of the water there. So the currents bring in sand from every direction, and in one place where the currents kind of clash against each other, there the sand is deposited, and it forms a barrier, a ridge between the shore and the open sea. Now this particular sandbar has been used as a symbol, a metaphor by Lord Tennyson in this particular poem. That is a demarcation or the border between life and death. Life is the shore and death is the open sea. So one ship that journeys from shore into the open sea, that is how he has compared life to, that while on the shore we are living, and after death, that is after crossing the sandbar, one goes out into the open sea, which is the world of the unknown. So that unknown is being used as an idea for afterlife in this particular poem. Now, Lord Tennyson happened to be one of the most important poets of the Victorian era. After Wordsworth's death, he became the poet laureate, that is the official poet of England. Before him, it was Wordsworth, and after Wordsworth's death, Lord Tennyson was given the title of the poet laureate of England, that is the official poet of England. Now, his poems also take a lot of imagery from nature. In this particular poem also, you can see that he has drawn upon the imagery of sea. He has drawn upon that imagery and he has used that imagery in this particular poem. So crossing the bar is crossing from life over into death. Now, let's take the poem one stanza at a time. First stanza, the poet says, sunset and evening star and one clear call for me, and may there be no moaning of the bar when I put out to sea. So it is, the setting of the poem is in the evening. He says it's sunset, and as the sun sets, the evening star, Venus, the evening star, it rises. So it is evening time, and there is a clear call, and this call is nothing but the call of death. Okay, why is it sunset and evening? Because he is comparing the time to the time in his life as well. He is old, he is 81 years of age as he composes this poem. In 3 years time he will die. So this is the evening of his life. He has come towards the end of his life. Night is being compared, is going to be compared with death. So evening is old age, nearing death. That is why it is the time of evening. It is sunset, the sun has set, and the evening star has risen. And there is a clear call, and he can really listen and understand that he is approaching his death. And as a ship moves out from shore into the open sea, he compares his life when he is nearing his death to move from the shore, that is from life, into the open sea, that is death. So he says that when I put out, when I start my journey into the afterlife, may there be no moaning of the bar. Moaning of the bar is the sound that is created when waves crash against the sound bar. But here he is comparing that to suffering, and he is saying that when I start my journey into the afterlife, let there be no suffering, or even let there be no mourning. Mourning as in mourning, that is, there may be no sadness from the people. They should bid him goodbye very happily. And it is very interesting to look at the fact that he says that death is not an end. Okay, he says when I put out to sea. So that is the beginning of a journey. So he is very comfortable, and he has accepted death as a positive thing. And he says that one just needs to move from life to death, and one should do it very gracefully, without any suffering, and let that be a journey, a beginning of a journey into the unknown. Then he moves on to the second stanza, where he says, but such a tide as moving seems asleep, too full for sound and foam, when that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. So the first two lines is that there should be a high tide. A high tide will be covering the sandbar. So when the ship goes out, it will not have to crash against the sandbar. It can actually flow out smoothly. But you also know that high tide is associated with strong and rough features in sea, rough waves, alright. But he says that let the tide be high, so there should be strong currents, okay, in the sea, but it should be calm, so that there is no sound or foam. Foam is the froth that is formed because of waves crashing against the shore. Then it becomes white like a foam. So he says that that should not be there. The tide should be high so that waves don't need to crash against the sandbar, and it should cover the sandbar high enough so that the sea can have a smooth, so that the ship can have a smooth sailing, and the current should be strong so that the ship can move into quite quickly into the sea and quite smoothly, but it should not be a rough sea. So the journey should not be rough. It should be calm and peaceful. Then in the next two lines of the stanza, he is referring to the water cycle. When that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. What is the water cycle? The water that is evaporated from water bodies like sea, ocean and rivers, they rise as vapors and then they condense and then they drop as rain on earth, and then they go back to the source. That is, they rise up from the sea, and when they drop as rain, they go back to the sea. So this is the water cycle from where it originates. From where it originates, that is the sea, it goes back to the sea in the form of rain. Similarly, he is comparing his own life to that water cycle, stating that he has come from the Creator. Alright, we have all come from the Creator, and after living a life, it is only natural that one is again united with the Creator, or one goes back to where he had come from. So he wants to go back where he came from after his death, that is from the Creator, from God himself. Then we move on to the third stanza, twilight and evening bell, and after that the dark, and may there be no sadness of farewell when I embark. Twilight is again evening, it's dusk when the sun is about to set. And the evening bell is the curfew bell that is rung in the churches in the evening to designate that the day's work is over and people should return to their homes. So it is evening, again the setting is evening as it had begun in the poem, and then he says after evening what comes? After evening it's the night, it's the dark night. So it's old age and he is nearing his death, that is evening, and he is going to die very soon, that is night or the dark. So he says, when I die, may there be no sadness of farewell. So may people not mourn my death. May they not feel bad about me, but they should be happy instead. Why should they be happy and why should they accept his death? Because he believes that after death he will be going back to the place where he came from. So it is going to be a journey back to his origin. So he says, when I embark, again the word embark means put out on a, or start or set out on a new journey. So this journey, so after death, he does not say that death is a destination, but he means to say that death is the beginning of a journey. So he is kind of looking forward to it, because though unknown, yet he is hoping that it will be different from life and it will be something new. Okay. Then last stanza he says, for though from out a bourne of time and place, the flood may bear me far. Bourne of time and place is, he is referring to the fact that after after death, when he goes to his afterlife, he will not be experiencing time and place as he experienced as a human being. Okay, you know and you have heard that we human beings live in this particular time and space. Our concept of time and space is something that we have experienced, but after death, or what the soul experiences, that is a completely different space and time phenomena. They are not on earth, they are souls, and they are they don't experience the earth as we experience. Their time is totally different. They have become a soul. So that is why he says that the flood, that is the sea, will take me away into afterlife, which will be far away from the earthly concept of time and space as we know it. But even if that happens, because that will be an unknown place for him, even if that happens, there is no fear in him. Rather, there is hope and there is affirmation. He says, I hope to see my pilot face to face when I have crossed the bar. So this journey, though it will take him to an unknown space and unknown region, but he hopes that he will meet his pilot. Pilot is his maker, his creator, that is God. And it is only after death that he hopes to meet God face to face. Why has he been referred to as the pilot? Is because he is being called, he's being referred to as the captain of the ship. If the ship is life, okay, moving from shore to the sea, that is from life to death. So the ship is being driven by a captain. So that captain is the pilot. He is the director and he is the maker of our lives. Okay, directing every aspect of our life. And he will be very happy. In fact, he is curious and he will be happy to be united with his creator and the God who actually shaped his life. So he wants to meet God after his death, and he hopes to see God face to face after crossing the sandbar. Now the crossing the sandbar is physically crossing the sandbar as crossing from life to death, but also cross has strong religious connotations. It refers to the cross of Jesus Christ. It refers to the cross of Christianity. So by the end of the poem, you know that Alfred Lord Tennyson has complete faith and he's completely comfortable with his religion, and he is not living in the region of doubt, but in fact he is faithful. He has faith in his God and his religion. So therefore, in this way, the word crossed has a strong religious sense to it. All right, and as I have told you, in this poem, the poet does not see death as the final destination that ends everything. Yes, it may end life, but he believes that after life he will have a completely new experience and a completely different and maybe even exciting journey, right? That is very clear when he says, when I put out to sea and when I embark. These are both words and phrases that mention that it is a beginning of a journey. And again, at the end of the second stanza, when he is referring to the water cycle, and he says that which drew from out the boundless deep turns again home. Okay, so he feels that after death he will go back to his home, and home is a place of comfort, okay, where you feel comfortable and happy. In the same way, the poet feels that after his death he will actually be more comfortable and he will be home. He will be in the place where he actually belongs, from where he has actually come. Okay, and the bone of time and place, as you can see that time and place have been personified. T and P are capital, so it's however, he over here means that he will be going away from this definition of time and place that we know as humans, because as a spirit he will be in a different world experiencing a different kind of a time and space phenomena. Okay. Now Pilate is a symbol for God, as I have already said, so it brings us back to the title where I had said that crossing the bar is crossing from life to death. That is clear, and the metaphor of the ship is very clear, that starting from the shore going out into the sea, and also crossing the bar has the word crossing in it, so which can also be a reference to the Christian cross, as I said. So as I have begun the poem, I will end the poem with the same note, that this is a poem of deep faith and affirmation. And there is no doubt even for a minute from the poet about his religious faith. He has complete faith in God, and he hopes to be reunited with God after his death. And he hopes to meet his maker, as he mentions, the Pilate face to face after he has crossed the bar. And as already mentioned, he doesn't want death to bring suffering to him. He in fact wants to pass on into his next life as smoothly as is possible, without any suffering and without any kind of mourning from his near and dear ones. This poem can be categorized as an elegy. Elegy is a poem which has a sad and mournful tone to it. So this is not a very energetic, as you can see he has reached the end of his life. So he is just thinking about thinking about death. So poems that deal with death are elegies. The last bit, the rhyming scheme, as you can see from the first stanza, star rhymes with bar, me rhymes with sea, and so on and so forth in the other stanzas also. So the rhyming scheme followed is A, B, A, B. And as simple as that, you can easily understand now what the poem is all about. Go through it and